Hello, everybody out there in comic book land. My name is George Serrano, aka The Don, and I'm back. We've returned for hour 2 in our 3-hour coverage of Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, the Ultimate Edition. And this is something, if you guys haven't heard before, it's something we call the ComicBook Clique Comic Book Commentaries, where we sit there right alongside you and watch some of the greatest or worst movies, TV shows, music videos, anything to do with comic book media. We can watch it right alongside our great fans, you guys at home. Now, if you want to see the whole thing, you obviously reached part 2. Part 1 took place from the 00 mark to the 1 hour mark. This one will take place from the 1 hour mark to the second, and our third and final installment will be Act 3 of the Batman v Superman comic book commentaries right here on Comic Book Clique. But I'm ready and I'm excited to go into this second one. We saw a lot of bat butt. We saw a lot of sexy Superman, a lot of sensual Lois Lane. Hasn't really been a lot of fighting as of late. Lex Luthor seems to be coming up with some sort of plan. Batman is sad and Superman is even sadder. And hopefully we see how all this comes to a head. We are at the 1 hour, no minute, no second mark here at Batman v Superman. I'm going to give you guys some time to queue up all your devices. Alright, that should all be good. So let's go ahead and get yourself ready. Get your finger on that play button because we're going to start in 3, 2, 1, play. And here we have Lois Lane continuing all her investigation on this super secret bullet that she found while she was out and about on her excursion over there, where Superman kind of killed some people. She is brave. Look at her walking right up to politicians and asking them questions. And even this guy says, you got some balls. You should have a way better job than working at the Daily Planet. Which I never understood why she was not like a White House correspondent or some sort of, higher paid position than just being a journalist for the Daily Planet. This was also a very good moment because it also portrays the fact that maybe Lois Lane is looking for reasons to defend the Superman because she's so close to the situation. To everybody else, he may be, maybe not good, maybe not bad, but at least in the middle. But to her, he's always good in her eyes because she knows the man. And maybe she needs to start looking at his actions more than how she actually views him. And here comes good old Clark Kent talking about what we could stand for, what the news could do. We could break stories. We can do what we want to. And Perry White, like everybody else in this film, just very miserable. I don't want to screw this. No, we're not going to do nothing in the newspaper that you want to do. And no one cares about Clark Kent taking on the Batman, which I thought was kind of cute. But they do that a lot in this film. Oh, you don't want to pick a fight with this guy. They do a lot of cool parts about that in this film. But people are coming up, making up their own minds about Superman. You know how media is. You see how big media is in this world and how it can turn any subject, can turn us against ourselves when we don't 100% know the answer. But we are put in this position where we're going to have to make a decision about these vigilantes in the world. And Superman is, I guess, he's on the cutting block. And the very beautiful Gal Gadot, I think it was Gal Gadot, playing Wonder Woman here. And it's cool how they found a way, even in her other dress, the red one, to show these layers of like these gold bangles or bands that go band around her waist, the one around her neck, the one around her arm. Very reminiscent of the tiara and the gauntlets that she wears that are basically bulletproof. And she is here looking for all of the most antique weaponry she can find. As someone who's lived as long as she has in her mythology, you gotta think she's interested in all the kinds of legendary weapons that they have here at this exhibit. And speaking of exhibits and legendary, here's Batman. Wonder Woman wants nothing to do with Batman, and Batman cannot take no for an answer. So decides to just stroll around her. And you know what? They do look very, very good together. I remember the Justice League playing around with Batman and Wonder Woman getting together. I would love to see something like that happen here. Let Superman keep Lois. That's fine. Just give Batman Wonder Woman. And it don't gotta be like this big lovey-dovey thing that takes away her ability to be a badass. I'm just saying have them both be badasses with a mutual amount of respect for each other and their badassedness. Nice little back and forth. There's a lot of back and forths of Batman in suits talking to females. I remember Catwoman in Batman Returns, and they even do it with Catwoman in The Dark Knight Rises, and now he's doing it. Big, busy ballroom scene almost with Bruce Wayne talking to a female in code. I know who you are. You know who I am. I'm Batman. All this other kind of stuff, but he's able to use his Tamagotchi thing that he plugged up to decrypt all the files in LexCorp. Remember, he's looking through LexCorp to find this white Portuguese because he, as he told Alfred, believes that this white Portuguese has to do with a dirty bomb that's going to be exploded into Gotham. And speaking about what that explosion might look like, here we get what's called Nightmare, starts with a K, Nightmare Batman, where Batman is in some sort of dream sequence. That's the Omega symbol burned into the ground there. The symbol for Darkseid, the new god. And one of the biggest villains in the DC universe, what a lot of people feel like is going to be the villain for Justice League 1. Although it's not being broken up into parts anymore, so it might just be called Justice League. But Batman, now sporting this trench coat and cool sandy goggles, is seemingly in some sort of war zone. Everyone armed to the teeth. These dusty trucks coming in and out. Almost a sandstorm-like environment. Served several years overseas, so I've seen my share of sandstorms. This is a pretty heavy one. But here comes Batman with a gat, or Batman with a semi-automatic rifle. He seems to be ready for something, looking for somebody. Very particular dream sequence. It's supposed to make you ask why, what's going on, what's happening, without actually giving you too much, but giving you enough to sink your teeth into. The Rock. Now, usually when you're talking about getting something and it being a rock in the DC universe, 9 out of 10, they're talking about kryptonite. There's only one rock people want in the DC universe. It's not a wedding ring. It's not 14 carats. It is kryptonite. The thing that could bring the Man of Steel down to his very knees. But this is a kryptonite, ladies and gentlemen. This is a trap. Battery to 2 green freaking light bulbs. And next thing you know, Batman is in a trap. His people have traded on him. And here comes some goons, some almost riot gear SWAT team members, all emblazoned with a Superman logo on their shoulder, I guess working for the Man of Steel himself. And look how they gun down the opposition, anyone standing in their way, anyone who is not abiding by Superman's laws is basically dead. And here comes Batman doing his best to try to, I guess, fight through this wave. Fight through this wave of Superman soldiers, and you can see he basically knocks out everybody with one hit. These big bat-like strikes with these weapons, and he's shooting people. He don't care. But look how he's able to take out all these men as the camera ends up turning around. What a beautiful sequence, showing just how good Batman is. Look how he's trying to help out his fellow soldiers, but there just seems to be too much of them. And then there's parademons. Parademons coming straight out of the mythology of Darkseid. Those are his soldiers. Just like Superman has his soldiers. Maybe there's some sort of partnering up here, but both guys, the Superman guys and Darkseid's security guards, parademons, neither like Batman. A strike to the back of the head knocks him out. And Batman is seen, and this is also very reminiscent of the Bible, where there's three people on the crosses crucified, Christ being the one in the middle, Batman being the one in the middle here, and you have the two other people who are kind of on his side, on his team, to face off against the great evil of this Superman here that Batman seems to be dreaming about. Now, there's a lot of people here that are wondering whether or not this is a dream sequence that has nothing to do with the movie, or everything to do with the movie. In my eyes, and not those eyes that just obliterated those two guys, but in my eyes, I believe that this has a lot to do with the Injustice storyline that took place in the video games and in the comic books, in which Joker kills Lois Lane, or Joker gets Superman to kill Lois Lane by accident, causing Metropolis to explode, and then Superman to become a overruling dictator on Earth out of craziness. There he goes. She was my world, and you took her from me. Now, although Batman doesn't take Lois Lane away from him in Injustice, it's Batman's inability to put the Joker away that does. And Superman reaches right through the chest of Bruce Wayne like he does, killing the Joker in the comic book. And now we have Barry Allen. Now, I'm a humongous fan of The Flash, the CW show, and this kind of broke my heart. I love Grant Gustin and his ability to play that role, bringing so much heart and levity to the role of Barry Allen, to the role of the Flash. I wasn't even a Flash fan before the show. I became one because of it. Watching this Flash here, I'm not too sure about him. Not too sure about the mustache and the goatee. Very, very weird choices here. And the very, very weird choice to not have the suit be all that visible. But he's saying that Lois Lane, it's all about Lois, that you are right about him, and come gather the rest of us up. The rest of us mean the Justice League. But I wonder, has Flash gone back in time to warn Batman about the events of Injustice? And, basically tell him that Lois Lane is going to be captured by the Joker. He will kill everyone after once Joker kills Lois Lane, Superman is going to kill everyone. And here's this is Bruce Wayne just looking up in the search bar for what he's looking for. And now we see that someone is trying to pull the strings of both of these gentlemen. They're sending... Oh, look, the white Portuguese is a ship. It's not a person at all. It is a ship. This is the ship that he's been looking for, the ship with the bomb on it. Supposedly the bomb on it. And just like that, you realize the lengths Batman has been willing to go to find this rock. And you got to think, since the effects of Man of Steel, everything that happened, all those events and the buildings coming down and all that kind of madness, you have to believe that since that happened, all Bruce was doing was looking for some sort of deterrent, some sort of weapon against this guy in case it would have happened again, or in case it would ever were to happen on Gotham. And look what he says, that son of a bitch brought the war to us 2 years ago. He feels like the battle lines have been drawn, and the only reason why he hasn't been more vocal about his opposition to Superman is that he hasn't found the weapon yet to take out this guy who has a chance of destroying the entire human race. In his eyes, he feels like Superman is too loose of a cannon to just rely on trust, and if he has to take him out, he'll take him out. I think a lot of this dialogue also has to do with Jason Todd. One of the lighter moments of his life is having his sidekick by his side, and having that sidekick brutally murdered, and having the dead body in his hands is enough to send a man a little bit crazy, a little bit hunting for some kryptonite, and a little bit, murdery. There we have the the girlfriend of the criminal who was killed in prison. And now we have Clark Kent is actually doing some reporting work for the Daily Bugle, which is good because they pay him to do that. And he's actually trying to find out some answers about how bad this criminal was that got killed, what happened when he went to Metropolis, all that other kind of stuff. Now he's talking to the girlfriend of a guy who, if I'm not mistaken, had like an underground sex ring or was doing human trafficking or something. So I love the sympathy from her eyes of like, once the bats got him and the Batman and the Batman, blah, 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 blah. Your boyfriend was selling women. Your baby daddy was selling women in a basement. He got bat branded. Yeah, that sucks kinda, but it also kinda doesn't suck that much. Bad people gotta get punished. And here comes that white Portuguese, the white whale that Bruce has been looking for this entire film. Alright guys, we got it. Here's the package. And that thing seems to be heavily, heavily guarded. Look at that. They're loading everything up into Lex Luthor's white Portuguese, and Batman is watching it all go down. Look at him up there. I don't know how he got up there. I don't know how long he's been up there, and he has a gun of some sort. But what a badass shot of watching that cloak sway in the wind. And you know he's going to LexCorp, and there's that Russian guy that's been throughout this film. You know he's a bad guy. He's one of Lex Luthor's right-hand men. And Batman looking like he's about to take a sniper shot. Something very uncharacteristic of Batman. And it's because it's not a sniper shot. It's actually one of his bat gadgets. A tracker. And here comes everybody. Getting ready to make sure that this place is guarded. Oh, but they weren't counting on the Batmobile. The debut of the writing Batmobile in 2016. Batman vs. Superman's Batmobile. This ain't no Nolan Batmobile. This ain't no Tim Burton Batmobile. This is not even the Joe Schumacher Batmobile. This is a lower Formula 1 racer style Batmobile that doesn't care about dragging other cars into the distance and destroying a ton of people just to get to this kryptonite rock, this thing that he feels he needs in this fight against Superman, because he thinks that the fight is coming regardless of whether or not he wants it to or not, and feels that he should be armed to the teeth to do it. And speaking of armed to the teeth, look how he's able to dispatch of all these guys with all his bat gadgets and his intelligence and this cool Batmobile. And like I said, when Batman's doing his thing, it's always fun. It's always pretty cool to watch him do his thing and stop the bad guys. It's always very, exciting, heart pumping. You see all these bullets being shown, and then boom, Batman has his own guns. I don't really think he took any lethal shot. Oh no, well, that was pretty lethal there. Yeah, Batman killed the hell out of those people. But again, there's a angrier Batman who's really just set on one thing more than crime. He's actually set on stopping Superman, who he feels is the penultimate criminal, because when push comes to shove, if you can level an entire city because of a one-on-one fight with one of your people from your planet, then you're pretty dangerous. That is a humongous viewfinder for that bazooka. That thing is crazy. There goes Batman. Drift. Batman trying to drift over here in the Snyderverse. And here he goes. And then, boom, more people blowing up. Batman's just blowing up people. Look at that. He just broke through a brick wall with that gun. With that vehicle. Oh, don't worry about where he is. He'll be sure to find you. Batman seems to be good at that. And look at that. The Batmobile jumping from mid-air out of a window of a building, crashing sideways, driving through. He basically drove through a boat somebody's boat. Somebody's really upset. I don't know if you can get insurance on Batman go crashing your boat. There he is, man. And there he goes. All that flame, all that fire. Batman's turning around. He's going to make sure he can get right behind that. Oh, but he's not going to be able to because of this man right here. Superman. And to make sure he doesn't hit him, he hits the brakes. Gets out of the way and crashes the Batmobile. Now, he probably should have just crashed the Batmobile into him, considering that he wanted to hit him with it anyway. Probably, eventually. But Superman sees the Batmobile, and again, this is the Clark Kent that just came out of the Daily Planet with all those articles coming out about whether or not Batman is the judge, juror, and executioner, and he is here to let him know that he's not. And next time that they put that little bat signal out in the air, he tells him not to go to it because he doesn't believe in his way of dealing justice. Now, that was a lot more threatening than I thought it would be. Instead of just like chill out, I don't like how you're doing things. He basically says the bat is dead, and then Batman says, "Do you bleed?" Like, this is really, really dark conversation between these two. The Batman versus Superman battle that we all know takes place in The Dark Knight Returns. That's the first time it took place in comic book form, and it deals with a much older Batman and a much older Superman who have been friends for over 20 years at that point, which makes the fight a lot more personal. In this one, they just met, so they're really just fighting each other on the very basic basis. That doesn't make any sense. They're fighting each other for very, very superfluous reasons. Nothing concrete yet. They're not fighting each other because of years of hatred or years of argument between them two. They just met each other and they just don't like each other. I think they both just feel threatened by their own ability to handle situations. Batman feels threatened by Superman, and Superman feels threatened by Batman. But Batman is still trying to find this kryptonite. He needs the kryptonite tools if he wishes to do anything, even close to stopping Superman. Now, you see that little tracker there? Someone should have seen that. That's like a bright red light. I thought it was a bomb at first or some sort, but it's just a transponder. But yeah, someone should have been looking at that. And there goes Ben Affleck looking all broody. And there it is. Kryptonite can't stop glowing, apparently. It always glows, no matter where it's at, no matter where it goes. Kryptonite glows. That's how you know it's kryptonite. And you see that face on Lex Luthor, how assured he felt. Finally, he is in a position where he can do what he wants to do. He says having all that intelligence without power is paradoxical, which means it doesn't make sense. And now he actually has all the knowledge and all the power. Senator is making a lot of good points about good being a conversation, not being unilateral, and stuff like that. And maybe Superman shouldn't have the ability to just go do whatever he wants all willy-nilly. But it's all kind of silly. They're asking Superman to show up at court, which I guess would be proof in itself whether or not he's a good guy, right? Because a good guy would come to court and defend himself. Bad guy would just fly down there and nuke everybody. But Lex has what he wants. That kryptonite rock. This scene I always found very weird. It's like a lot's going on, and then when they get to this scene exactly, it gets to black and white. Not black and white, it gets to nighttime. And Clark's in his suit, where I just felt like Clark was in the Daily Bugle. Or Planet. I keep saying Daily Bugle. The Daily Planet in the daytime. Just hanging out with Lois and Perry White. This is the woman who was the woman who testified from earlier, saying that Superman basically destroyed her entire village. The woman that Batman was looking for in Gotham, and she doesn't look to be too happy to find that some people who've been working for Lex Luthor are outside of her house, asking questions, presumably asking where she's at. So instead of stopping at home, I guess she just takes the bus to the next stop. And here is that senator. This is another scene that was deleted that I think actually does a lot for the plot. It does a lot to move Lex Luthor's motivations around and kind of show us what kind of person that he is. As you can see, the woman who was being kind of spied on, all that kind of stuff, she has come forward to the senator. You know, a lot of her testimony is the reason why Superman is on trial today. Her saying that he'd acts unilaterally. It's almost like he doesn't even fear a god. But Lois is putting the pieces together. It was not Superman who did all that. Somebody was trained to come into that situation and shoot a bunch of people and set them on fire and make it seem like Superman was doing all that kind of stuff. Lex Luthor, using LexCorp, had private contractors that went out there and shot and killed some of the terrorist men and set some of the people from the village on fire and made it seem like he was doing it with his laser eye vision, also that Superman could eventually show up in court. You know, and a lot of this shows how predictable Superman is. Lex knew if he put Lois Lane in danger, the next thing that Superman was going to do was go and try to save her automatically without worrying about what country it's in or what the situation is. Superman uses love and goes and saves Lois, not knowing that he was being set up all along. And here comes that gentleman who had his legs crushed. The gentleman who went and did the hate crime, but is now in a suit and now ready to testify. Batman watching it on 4 TVs, which has to be better than watching it on like 2 or maybe even 1. 4 TVs, you can just change which one you're looking at. Like I'm looking at the top right corner, now the bottom right corner. Left and yeah. Yeah, Grace, get Greg. He wants Greg up here now. Now, this actually it's also very interesting and very important. She wanted to out Lex Luthor before this trial even happened. Perry White, being the Perry White that he is, says that it's not even worth it because if it's a lie, Luthor will basically, sue the whole paper and it'll be destroyed. The senator, talking about not letting Lex Luthor bully people, is then surprised by Lex Luthor in the hallway of the Senate meeting. And it was kind of creepy when I saw it the first time around, like talking about somebody and how evil they could be and how you're not going to stand for that. And then turning around and they're being right there smiling, looking all dapper and ready to take on the day. While Bruce right now is bugging out. While Clark is bugging out right now. Lois, Perry White, everyone's bugging out but Lex Luthor. He's very calm, cool, and collected. Things seem to be going exactly the way he wants to. And maybe that's the very essence of Lex Luthor himself, being this calm storm of controversy, of planning, of meticulousness, of tediousness, all these little plans that he seems to be able to blow up into these catastrophic events. And he wants Superman to be a fraud. He wants to defraud Superman in front of the world. There he goes. Another Lex-isms. There's a lot of Lex-isms in here. If God can be all powerful, then he can't be all good. God chooses sides. A lot of really big biblical references. And this is also cut out from the film. The woman who is scared for her life because she used Lex Luthor to testify. Lex Luthor made her testify against Superman lying. And now Lex Luthor's people are going to make sure that all the loose ends are tied up. So she's the only one that can sit there and say Luthor was lying. She can't anymore. And here comes Lois Lane just running in, and Superman is here. And look at this. Look at these protests. No aliens. Nothing. You got some people having some Superman Saves t-shirts. But yeah, a lot of people are Superman logos crossed through. A lot of people upset. A lot of people saying we don't want no aliens. Really xenophobic remarks there. And there he is. The man, I mean, do you really have to close the doors? But the man that everyone's been asking for. Now, I gotta hand it to Superman. I don't think Batman, I think Captain America, I don't think Iron Man, I don't think any of them go to court to defend why they're defending America. We saw how Captain America felt when people weren't too happy about how he chose to do things. And I like how they showed that a man with immense strength is able to move that little door very delicately to show that he has those extremes where he can be a normal person and move things and be okay, or he can crush a whole building with a single punch. And there goes Lex and his assistant, very curious by his absence because he had a front row seat. Even has his own little paper. And there she goes. Senator Finch was ready to sit here and say that Lex Luthor has concocted this whole terror plot against Superman to make us all afraid of him. But right when she goes to speak the truth, she can't help but notice that sitting on her little table there in its own mason jar labeled Granny's peach tea. Is it Granny's peach tea? Yes, it is. Labeled Granny's peach tea is a jar of piss. Because she said, you know, you can do what you want, but you can't piss in a jar and call it Granny's peach tea. And that's exactly what Lex Luthor did. And she is shocked that without even being here, Lex Luthor has been able to pull the strings and do whatever he wants. And in this moment of complete silence, the plan is figured out, and boom! The entire courthouse is destroyed, leaving only one survivor, the only possible survivor in a situation like this, Superman. So again, Superman is in this situation in which people are going to make up their minds about him anyway. This wheelchair exploding. Lex Luthor is behind all of it. But look at that face. That's the face of a man who doesn't know if he belongs anymore. If people are constantly trying to attack me and trying to attack my character, if innocent people are dying because of this, then maybe I need to stop doing this. Because the whole reason I started doing this was so innocent people wouldn't die. And that's Bruce getting a couple letters, to have him feel like maybe there's somebody out there for him. Somebody out there attacking the character of Bruce Wayne and his inability to save, quote unquote, his family. There's also deleted scene Superman helping out some people, some casualties of the bombing, and really showing the scale of violence that's taking place in this film. Not only in this film, but taking place on behalf of Lex Luthor, all to, like I said, defraud Superman. And sometimes I think this film would work better if it was just Superman and Lex, or just Superman and Batman. But with all these cast of characters, I feel like Superman gets lost in the shuffle. And what happens when Superman gets lost in the shuffle? Exactly what's about to happen right now. He looks sad, he decides he doesn't need to be here anymore, and he leaves. He does that throughout this film when he feels like the film is being too complicated or there's way too many people in the plot. Like, we have a segment of Alfred cutting logs. That's what Alfred does. he cuts logs and then he comes home with them and he sets them up. Like I said, very hipster Alfred. I do not see Michael Caine doing this. I don't see the Alfred from the other 4 movies, the really, really old one, in the actual butler outfit. He's not cutting. He's not cutting logs. And what Alfred's looking at there, it seems to be a series of checks that were returned apparently after the attack 18 months ago by Superman in Metropolis. That guy who lost his legs, Batman, was doing all he can to, at least support him financially because he couldn't work anymore and, hospital bills and stuff. And the last couple of checks that he sent to this gentleman were returned to Bruce Wayne with those nasty writings on them about you killed your family, you let your family die, all that kind of stuff. But Lex has just found out that his entire establishment has been broken into, and some people have been hurt. But I think he knows exactly what was stolen. He doesn't even have to go into every other office or look at all the other surveillance cam footage. He just looks here, sees how Batman's able to quickly take out some of the security guards, and he knows that Batman is only here for one reason. The reason he's pushed them here. The whole reason that Lex has this Rubik's Cube like plan of putting all the pieces in the right places. He hopes that Batman has come here for the one thing he knows Batman would come here for. And with this shot here, it's established. Batman has come for the kryptonite. He has come to fight Superman. And he has come to stop Superman. And that can't help but put a smile on Lex's face. Because although Lex wanted to stop Superman on his own, to him, having the Dark Knight do it, get his hands dirty, has to be better. We get really sad Superman who wants to doubt himself right here, saying, I didn't see it. I should have been able to see it. Lois, with the way I'm doing, with the way I've always been able to operate, I can see through walls, I can see through all this. I must have not been able to see it because I wasn't looking for it. And it's just, I don't know, man. That's too mopey for me. That's too mopey of a Superman for me. I need a Superman who's a little bit sure of himself, but I can see where they're going in this Snyder series of movies and trying to paint him into a more human character in this film, where he is from Krypton, but he spent majority of his life in Kansas, small town Kansas, and now this guy, this Superman, is able to do incredible things, and people think incredible things of him, but he doesn't even know if he thinks about those incredible things of himself, and people are starting to say and do bad things because of him. So what do you do then when things might be even getting worse because of what you're doing? And there he goes, shoots right up into the sky. It's a bird, it's a plane. It's a really, really sad Henry Cavill. And Lois Lane in that, I guess, hotel room. That's not her apartment, is it? Now, you want to talk about confusing? This gets quite confusing. Using all the fingerprints of Zod that he was able to cut off with that kryptonite scalpel. He is able to break into the Kryptonian ship that crashed in Man of Steel 2. And, I guess, go sift around in the water. That's what geniuses do, I guess. And he's dirtying up that very, very beautiful blue suit, but he doesn't seem to care. And then just by happenstance, sees this Superman USB thing from Man of Steel and decides maybe I should just put it back. And there it goes. The whole computer system perks up right at the touch of the fingertips. And all of a sudden, he has the entire history of Krypton, the entire history of everything in the Kryptonian database right there at his fingertips, or at Zod's fingertips, because he cut off Zod's fingertips. But right there. And like he said, yes, he would. I want to know about everything that has to do with everything that has to do with everything. 100,000 worlds Lex Luthor is about to learn about. And like he said, he thinks knowledge is power, so he's about to become the most powerful guy in the world. And here we got Batman performing some CrossFit. He took all the specs he could from Lex Luthor about the kryptonite, when he broke into his database, and is going to try to forge some of the baddest weapons he can from this kryptonite. Something that could actually hurt Superman, something that he can use to hurt Superman. This part here looks very Tony Stark, right? I mean, he's like creating the fusion or arc reactor. But this is for something very different. He's creating instruments of war. He's getting himself in fighting strength and in fighting shape to deal with the last son of Krypton. Look at that kryptonite smoke. He's able to create kryptonite grenades. He's able to pull that tire really, really hard. This is the Bat training montage. And look at that. Able to craft a spear tip, a kryptonite golden green spear tip to take out Superman. Now here's another problem. The MetaHumans folder. And look at those folders right there. Somebody designed these folders, the backgrounds and everything. Flash, Aquaman, Cyborg, and Wonder Woman. And there's Wonder Woman from before. Picture taken of her. She's looking right at it though, so she must have known that the picture had taken place. But yeah, they're calling these people metahumans. That is the word of choice on the DC side of things, of dealing with people with superpowers. Metahumans is used a lot in the Flash to describe people hit with the particle accelerator that now have powers. And I guess they're going to use the term metahumans going forward with Justice League and everything else like that. But look at this film, or this picture from 1918. All right, almost 100 years ago, Wonder Woman was Wonder Woman, and she was looking exactly how she looks now. How is that possible? How does that work? How is she so damn pretty? How did they get this picture so damn clear? All of that, I guess, will be learned in the Wonder Woman movie that I believe is in theaters next year. But Zod's back in all his naked glory, because Lex Luthor has another plan. Like I said, this guy is riddled with plans. And, yeah, doing his best. Look at that. And he does have this affection towards Zod. I'm not 100% sure why. Like, was he aware that Zod was trying to save or create a new Krypton? Like, he seems to be very sad that Zod is gone, or at least mournful, See, he says, saying he flew too close to the sun, like Icarus in the Greek mythologies, who had wings made of wax, flew too close to the sun, and ended up having his wings melted and him crashing down to a very painful death. And I guess he sees Zod's ability to want to control the world as maybe him having those kind of wax wings, and maybe Lex can make some kind of metal wings and finish Zod's plan, although with more complicated methods. And everybody is looking for Superman and looking for Clark Kent. Both of them haven't been coming to work, and no one ever puts those two and two together. Okay, well, Superman didn't come to work, and that's sad. All the kids wondering if they still have a hero, and I like how that mom just shook her head no, like, don't believe it, baby. Superman is the man. He's always been the man. You ain't got nothing to worry about. And here comes hiking Superman, hobo Superman. We saw him before when he had this big old beard. I think it was in Anchorage, Alaska, maybe, or did I just make that up? But he was out there doing his Supermanly duties, and now he just wants to go out for a walk. And they just let him die. They say he's out to die and let him die. And apparently all the news reporter does is watch the news. Is that a real thing? Are there any news reporters out there in Comic Book Clique? Hit me up. Are you a news reporter that just watches the news? Because that seems to be all Lois Lane does. She's constantly depressed. She's reading newspapers and is upset, reading articles online and is upset, and now reading a bunch of stuff, or listening to a bunch of stuff on the news and is upset. And like I said, the one person that's not as upset as everybody else, Lex Luthor with a smile on his face, on top of his helipad, seemingly waiting for something, waiting for another part of his plan to just unfurl. Very super villainy, if you ask me. The red capes are coming, the red capes are coming. And Lois just trying to be a little bit more, just trying to investigate a little bit more on the person who blew up the entire courthouse. And she seems to have made up her mind. And look at that, a fridge full of food. Which means, why waste all that money on food if you knew you were going to blow up? And it turns out, he didn't know he was going to blow up. This conversation right here between Lois and her good friend down at the GC, well not GC, Metropolis, CSI, has dropped a big old bomb. The entire wheelchair was lined with lead, and lead seems to be the one thing that Superman cannot see through, and is why Superman was unable to identify that there was a bomb in the wheelchair. So all that stuff about maybe I didn't see it because I didn't want to see it, all that's out the window. Thank you, Ultimate Edition, for letting us know the reason why he couldn't see the lined wheelchair was because it was lined with lead. That's why he couldn't see the explosion. But straight from Man of Steel, here comes Papa Kent. You know, here to give some nice words of encouragement to the last son of Krypton and somebody he considered his son. You know, regardless of their adoption methods. You know, they always had a strong, loving relationship. And you got to think, this is the person that he thinks about. This is the person that Clark Kent thinks about when he's in his roughest patches. This is the person he wishes he can see that can bestow all this deep love and wisdom and advice to him, and can't anymore because Superman was unable to save him. So they go basically on and on with this story about how doing some farm stuff, they were able to save their farm from a flood, but because they blocked the water from flooding their farm, they went upstream and it destroyed the entire Lang farm. I think that's it's Lana Lang, probably. So they destroyed all of Lana Lang's farming stuff. All the animals were killed, horses were drowned. That's terrible. That's a terrible story, Papa Kent. I don't know why you come here to tell your son such ridiculousness when he's dealing with fighting a Batman. But he's talking about having faith that there's good things in this world. And that's the faith that that Superman needs to have. And just like that, he was all alone. Superman talking to himself. And here's another super slow shot of somebody walking through high grass towards a Wayne building. This happens to be the Wayne mansion that was destroyed. And they haven't quite yet said how it was destroyed or why it was destroyed. Hopefully we get that in the Batman standalone movie. But it was destroyed. There he goes. Superman officially older than his father ever was. Batman. Keep getting these two guys mixed up. So as you can see, Batman has already decided against not against fighting crime, but fighting crime is not the big fish to fry. The biggest fish to fry right now, the fish that they almost need to fry right now, has more to do with the fact that Superman, it might be damaging the entire future of the world. No more talking about Gotham City or these particular streets. He has an opportunity to do what he wants to do. Batman's always tried to save the world. He has an opportunity in this moment to stop one of the most powerful people in the world from yielding the power to destroy this world. And he says that his family, they used to be hunters, and maybe that's in his bloodline. Maybe it is his duty to be the Wayne that hunts down Superman and ends all this once and for all. And there's Martha Kent closing up shop in good old Smallville. I've always liked Diane Lane. I think she does a good job as the mama character. She's not even all that old, but they found a way to make her pretty old in this film. Just taking out the trash, and that's a little bit scary. Kind of wish Martha Wayne had powers at this moment, but she doesn't. And there she goes, trying to take off, trying to outrun the car, and it doesn't ever work that way. Here comes the big van to pull her inside, and just like that, one of our favorite superheroes' mothers is now captured. And there's that. Look at that look. That is the Batman straight out of the comic book, straight out of Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns. The Superman Buster suit, basically, just like the Hulk Buster, with the light up eyes and the big metal pieces of armor covering Batman and stop him in this fight against Superman. That's straight out of the comic books. I was so happy to see that. This logo too, this bigger, thicker logo that you're going to see here in the bat symbol, is also from Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns, which deals with a much older Batman, 20 years in the actual service of Batman. He's seen it all, done it all, and is ready to take out his final foe in Superman. This happening obviously a little bit chronologically different, but Batman is basically setting up for the showdown that this entire movie was based on. Close to 2 hours in the film, it hasn't been a single punch thrown by either one of them towards the other yet, but hopefully this starts off on a very, very punch-heavy scene. And there is Lex Luthor, all smiles, almost brought to tears in his happiness. He is so elated to be in charge and running all this and having all these things go off without a hitch. It took this genius level of planning to get these two people at odds, and he's just about done with his last steps of his plan to ensure that either men take each other out, or at the very least that Superman is taken out and shown for the fraud that he is. And come on, Lois, you should have been able to see that guy's face from the escalator. I saw his face from the escalator. That Russian face, a very, very angry Russian face. And look at getting pulled off to the side. Lois Lane being captured for the second time in this film. Probably the third or fourth by the time you've seen Man of Steel. Very damsel in distressy, which is weird because they show her being so upfront in other cases, and then when it comes to needing Superman to save somebody, very, very damsel in distressy. I don't even know if damsel in distressy is a word, but she's all that. Look at that beautiful shot of Lex waiting for Lois Lane on the helipad. Like I said, there's a lot of good in here, and that's part of it, is watching Lex just feel evil, seem evil, and he's asked for Miss Lane's as an audience for tonight's events. And like I said, Lois Lane already knows that he helped set up Batman. She knows about the wheelchair. She knows about the bullets. So who knows? She could bring his entire empire crumbling. But he doesn't seem too concerned about that. He wants to talk about the building and how the building was created and, stuff like that. Very Lexy. Like I said, very kind of crazy, a little bit manic. But he does have a plan. This is where he basically lays out the plot that He knows exactly how to get to Superman because the straightest path to Superman, he says it right here, is a pretty little road called Lois Lane. And there he goes, pushes her with no regard, knowing without a shadow of a doubt that seconds later, Superman would be there to save her. And yes, he is. It was a beautiful shot watching her come down and just seeing him appear, grab her, and lead her off to safety. Look how dark that blue and the red is in his cape. They did a really, really, big job of like trying to subdue as many colors as they could in this film. They really, really make it kind of dark. Where Superman has always been seen as kind of the light in the DC universe, bright, truth, justice, and the American way, and then the way of the world. Now this should have been a moment, right? Superman in his outfit right there with Lex Luthor. This is something comic books are made of, and here we go. Superman saying he'll take him in without breaking him. Very angry Superman. And Lex is just here to monologue because that's what bad guys do. We won't ever find out how the bad guys feel if they don't go out and tell us. And right there, he's basically comparing Clark Kent to all the other mythical gods that has ever been around, from all the religions. And he says that God takes sides, and because God takes sides, God can't be trusted. So if God can't be trusted, what is he doing walking around here in a red cape? Look at the anger in Lex's face. He feels personally betrayed by God, and if Superman is God, then he wants to betray him back. He wants to have everybody at this guy's throat. He wants to disprove that this man is a god, because in his eyes, God does not exist. Because if he did exist, he would have saved him from the brutality of getting beaten by his father years ago. And he will not allow a man like Superman to walk around freely, acting like a god, if God does not exist. So now, Lex Luthor is basically saying, guess what? You have a whole nother war, and it's dealing with the Bat guy over there on the other side. And he's been kind of mad at you for 2 whole years. 2 whole years. And I sent him the letters to throw him over the edge. So now, because I want you two are going to fight each other. I need to see what happens when a god fights a normal man, and the last son of Krypton fights the Bat of Gotham, which I never really heard anybody call him the Bat of Gotham. He's like the Dark Knight, the Bat maybe. And here is the ace up Lex Luthor's sleeve. Superman thinks that he's threatening Lois Lane again, but Lex Luthor lets him know that it's Martha Kent that is in his custody. Mama Martha Kent is in his custody, and who knows the terrible, terrible things that Lex and his people can do to her if Superman does not do what he says. And there we go. We have Superman on his knees. Not kneeling per se to Lex Luthor, but that is definitely the imagery. And there he has it. There's the ultimatum. You must kill Batman. Give me the head of Batman and I will save your mom. I put her in danger, but she could all be saved if you do it as I say. If you try to find her, I'll kill her. If you try to kill me, I'll kill her. So you better kill Batman, or Martha Wayne is going to die. Or Martha Kent. Forget I said Martha Wayne. Forget I ever said that the Kents and the Waynes might have the same name. And that's the whole thing. He needs to show that God, when God needs to be selfish, that God can be ruthless. And he has taken away something from a God, something away from Superman, to see if he can choose sides. Will he do what's necessary to save the people he loves, even though he knows it's the wrong thing to do? And because he has the power, it doesn't really matter what right and wrong is, as long as it's in his best interest. And with that, Lex Luthor flies away. And we have Superman sitting there trying to make up the decision of what he's going to do, and to prove that Martha Wayne is captive and held captive by Lex Luthor and his goons, we get this beautiful shot, or this horrendous shot here, of Martha Kent basically tied up and restrained, all by the hands of Lex Luthor and his merry men. And you see these individuals are dangerous. We've seen them the whole film and what they're able to do, how they've been able to. And look at that clock there. That's the clock that Lex Luthor has set up, because once that clock is over, if the head of Batman isn't on his table, it's all over. Martha Kent is gone. And not for nothing, there's something happening with the Kryptonian ship. Massive power surges and everything's shocking right into the Kryptonian ship. Wonder Woman is able to see all the crazy events that are going on and knows she has to do something with it. It's fight night. Lois Lane is rushing to the scene. Everybody knows that what's going on. Oh, here comes Clark. He needs to go to Gotham to convince him or kill him. Which I think there's a middle ground there. But he seems to think it's either kill or convince. And he says, you know what? Maybe there's no good left in this world, and he flies away. And here we have the very, very beautiful Wonder Woman experiencing the power outages, realizing that something is up. And she seems to be packing her bags to go somewhere. But all of these occurrences might make it a little bit hard to. So she's going to go ahead and look for the nice little message that Bruce Wayne sent her. He found the drive, and guess what? It doesn't belong to you. And she doesn't seem too happy about right there. That picture, and pause. Right there at the 2-hour mark. 2 hours. No minutes and no seconds. We're going to stop it right there. And look at that. It seems like Wonder Woman has been found out. Batman knows that she's at least 100 years old. And he wants to know what the heck is up about that. Lex Luthor has Martha Kent captive. And is now basically holding her for ransom to make sure that Superman fights the Bat. Batman has a whole slew of kryptonite weapons ready at his disposal, and he's ready to take down the guy who threatens his belief in good and evil. And Superman has a hell of a decision to make on his hands of what he's going to do about Batman, what he's going to do about his mom. This has been part 2 of 3 of our Comic Book Commentaries. And if you like what we're doing here, go ahead and go to Facebook.com Facebook.com/ComicBookClique, Instagram @ComicBookClique, and use the hashtag ComicBookClique to talk about all the newest, hottest, greatest, and latest things to come to comic book and comic book media. And you got to be following this stuff, because this stuff comes quick, it comes hot and heavy, and it would be much more enjoyable if all you guys were on board giving me your comments and concerns so we can make this the most fan interactive experience we've ever had. Allowing me to do this has allowed me to enter into all of your rooms and watch these movies with you in the non-creepiest way possible. We stopped here at the 2-hour mark. We're going to pick up with the last hour and the third act in our last installment of Comic Book Clique Commentaries, Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, the Ultimate Edition. Now that is a long, long title. But I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Go ahead, like it, share it, move it around, let people know, and let us into your home so we can continue to do all the great things we do for comic books and comic book media. My name is George Serrano, aka The Don. This has been Comic Book Clique for Comic Book Commentaries. Remember, even though you're not a Batman, even though you're not the last son of Krypton, and even though your daddy didn't give you a $1 million estate called LexCorp, you are worthy.